Okay, I am back at the well today. It's still covered. My goal for today is going to be to get water flowing from this reservoir. I have to stop calling it a well because it's not a well. Anyways, my goal is to get water flowing from this reservoir down to the basement of the house into a container with gravity. I went over kind of roughly how I plan to do that yesterday. We'll see if that plan works or I need to make some adjustments and whatnot. One thing I did before I started this video was I took this electric leaf blower and blew some of the leaves away from the well. The main reason for that was when I opened the cover of the reservoir, sometimes like leaves would blow in, and obviously you don't really, it's probably not a big deal, but it's not ideal. It could clog up the intake and whatever. The other reason was I wanted to get a better look at what the terrain looks like around the reservoir. So one thing that I either read or saw on a YouTube video or something was that basically, it's kind of obvious, but so the hills up there, water's coming down underground somehow, but basically you don't want water to pool right above the reservoir and that water will go down into the ground and into the reservoir. You want the water that's coming from top of the mountain, not from like right here or maybe like a little bit up. This I think isn't the worst, but I think I can definitely make more. Maybe if I back up here, you can get a better view. So water's like rushing straight down and it's gonna hit the concrete right here and then kind of go off to the side. I'm not gonna have time to do this today, but what I'm gonna probably try to do is divert as much of the water as possible by digging some drainage ditches off to the side. So as the water is rushing down the hill, they go off to the side more than like directly at the reservoir. But that's for later. I'm gonna uncover the cover to the reservoir now and hopefully the well is full. So good news, the reservoir, I said well again before. I'm gonna try not to say well anymore. Anyways, it's full. Zoom out. It looks like some of this debris that I leaf blowed was able to make it under the cover, so I see like a few organic material at the top there. I'm gonna pour in another cap of bleach because of that dead mole that was in here the other day or yesterday. And then what I'm gonna do is cut that hose probably right in the middle, and then I'm gonna put this elbow on it. So it's basically gonna go in the hose on the outlet pipe, and then it'll point downward into the reservoir. I think that's really all I have to do up here before I get actually no, I also need to prime that hose. So what I'm gonna do is point the hose up so I can pour water into it, and then I'll turn it and point it down when it's ready to be pumped, when the water's ready to be pumped out. So I put a plastic bin down there because as I cut the hose, or I guess technically it's a pipe, it doesn't really bend like a hose, but it does have a little flex. It's not like PVC. It's some, I think it was called polyethylene pipe. I put the plastic bin down there because as I cut the pipe, it's gonna put plastic shavings into the water, and I want to try to minimize that. So I have a hacksaw, the pipe, and the bin. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much ready up here. I put that elbow I was talking about, and right now the pipe is pointed up, but I can easily turn it around and put it in the water. And it is deep enough that it doesn't touch the bottom. Very nice. One thing I noticed was the water level is just where that pipe intake is starting, and you can see there's kind of some concrete that's missing here. So I'm almost positive that's where the leak is. So like if I get some hydraulic cement and patch that up, this reservoir should go much higher. But the problem is, I don't know where the overflow pipe is. So as you can imagine, if the reservoir is completely sealed, eventually it's gonna fill up with water, and water is gonna just overflow from the top. So what they usually do is have another pipe, like somewhere where you want the overflow to exit the reservoir. I'm not sure if the overflow in this case, like when it was fully functional without any leaks, was like kind of seepage through the, like those sides or whatever. That's what I'm guessing. Yeah, because like, how am I gonna do an overflow? I can't drill a hole through this concrete. I mean, I guess I could, but it might. Actually, I'm gonna have to look that up because I have never really drilled through concrete this thick before. So maybe you can drill through it. But for now, we're just gonna try to get this working, and if I do, that's gonna be a win because I'll have water. Okay, I'm back in the basement. It looks like I'm gonna have to go back to the hardware store. I was gonna try to do it like a kind of getaway. I mean, it's already ghetto, but even ghettoer than ghetto. But there's a sticker on the pump. There's the pump that says fill the pump with 25 psi of air before you run it. And I don't have a pump that will plug into this where is it? Yeah, right here. This whatever hole is under that. So I gotta figure that out. And I realized, I thought I bought enough connectors, but apparently I didn't. Ideally, this is the outlet, and I would like to connect this valve there so I can open and close it. And I believe the open and closing action is what operates the pump. So if I close it, the pump should stop. If I open it, pump should run. At least that's what I think without reading the manual. Yeah, so I think I am gonna stop here for now and do some combination of eating, going to the hardware store, and mowing the lawn. I also brought in a extension cord here so I can run the pump, and also the previous owner had some pre-existing light and sockets here, so that's been helpful. Quick update. I actually found the place where you put air into the pump water holding container, basically. I guess that's what it is. I'm sure. I think they might call it a bladder, but that may be wrong. I'm not sure. But it's basically a Schrader valve, so I can just use my bike pump on it. But I would still like to get the stuff at the hardware store before I start running this, because that will enable me to actually set up the whole gravity system and not have to just leave it hanging while I run to the hardware store again to finish the job. So that's it. Headed to the hardware store, or eating, or mowing the lawn. Okay, so I mowed the lawn, ate some food, and went to the hardware store. Not in that order, but all three got done. And my pump is, I think it's good. It's like, it's ready to be turned on. Well, not right now. Once I prime the hose pipe, so once I fill this pipe with water, I'm gonna be ready to turn on this pump. Now, I didn't read the instruction manual, and I don't plan to, at least right now, because I just want to basically turn on this pump for a few seconds to see if I can get the gravity feed going. But there was a little valve here. It's not a valve, it's a I don't know, all this terminology stuff I'm gonna have to learn. But there's like a little nut here, you unscrew it, then you prime the pump. You don't want to run the pump dry. When you open the box up, there's a warning that says don't run it dry for more than 10 seconds. So pump is primed. I checked the pressure in the tank and it was at 30 psi, and the sticker here says 20. To have it, let's see, it says pump 23 psi of air into the container. So I could take some air out, but this is the way it came, so I'm just gonna leave it. And I don't think anything bad's gonna happen. It's probably, guessing what's gonna happen, the higher pressure is probably gonna create more of a jet than at 23 psi. But I don't know, we'll see. Now I'm gonna go up the hill and fill the pipe with water. Yeah, it's a long pipe, so I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I don't have enough water to put in to fill that pipe probably. Like, I only have like spring water that I bought from the stores. So I'm gonna have to basically get a jug, put it into the reservoir, and then use that water to fill the pipe. So, yep, let's go do it. I got about 4 gallons, probably more like three and a half of water in the pipe. And I'm not sure how much the pipe is supposed to hold, but before I just keep adding more water into it, I'm gonna go down to the basement and see if I can if there's any sign of like water actually making it down there. Because if the pipe is like broken in the middle or something, then this is kind of pointless. So yeah, I'm walking down and we'll see. Yeah, so this is my bad, but it's leaking like crazy. I didn't put any Teflon tape around this. But we don't need this to be perfect. It just needs to work for a few seconds. But the good news is that there is water. I'm gonna try to see if I can get this tightened up a little bit more, and then we'll start giving it some more water from up top. All right, so I poured a bunch of water down there into the pipe. I put the screen back on, so any kind of foreign objects won't get into the pipe. I'm gonna turn this around and put the pipe into the water. I guess one concern that I have is doing it this way. Basically, you're like pumping. I don't know the science, so I'm not gonna try to explain it. All right, so basically, I'm worried that the water flow is gonna be too fast, and it will drain the reservoir faster than the natural spring can replenish it. It is a concern. I don't know. I'm just gonna go for it. See what happens. I'm gonna try to set up my camera. I don't want to grab my tripod just because it's a pain in the ass, but I'm gonna try to set up my camera so you can see what I'm doing, because I think there's a more than a fair chance that there's water gonna be just going everywhere, and it's gonna be kind of a shit show. So hopefully it is, and there can be some entertaining content. All right, I don't know exactly. I didn't really plan out this very well, but we'll just go with the flow. Okay, the water is coming in way too fast. It's gonna fill up that container very quickly. But I think that's okay, because up at top, the reservoir is gonna empty out, and then there'll be no more water to take in. So the pumping action should stop at that point. At least that's the theory. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. Okay, so I'm back up top, and as I predicted, the reservoir is not quite empty. There's still, it's got like a bit left to go, but it's much lower than before. I still see the intake pipe. It looks like it's still in the water. So if I'm lucky, it's like just taking in what's available. But my guess is air got into it. So if I go down to the bottom, there's going to be no more water coming through. How do I fix that? I think the quick fix might be to put a valve somewhere in the middle to restrict the water flow. But I'm gonna go down now and see if water's still coming through that pipe. I guess it's no. One stupid thing I did before was that when the water was like coming out the pipe, I got so discombobulated that the water, I pointed the hose towards the electric receptacle. Fortunately, the breaker tripped, and that's why you saw the lights go off. Now we're gonna see if water's still coming through this pipe. And the answer is no. But at least now we have more information. So back to the drawing board. Alright, so that was like a kind of a success, but also a kind of a fail. I mean, obviously it's not working, but the barrel downstairs is like, in the basement is like half full, which is about 25 gallons. So that means that the reservoir up there holds about 30 gallons of water, which is actually like a good amount. I'm thinking like I can maybe even just pump it right out of that reservoir, but I don't want to. So what's next? I called my friend, we brainstormed a little bit. One of the easier solutions would be to put a valve down near the basement and open it just enough to control the flow of the water. So the flow rate never goes above what's coming out of the spring. A better way he suggested was to use something called a float, or like a float controlled valve. So if the water level gets up to a certain point or below a certain point, it just it flips a valve and stops the water from flowing. Having considered those two choices, I think a better option right now would be to actually seal the leak in the reservoir, because in order for this to function normally or in the best way, it shouldn't be leaking. So I'm gonna go to the hardware store and get some hydraulic cement, and we're gonna try to make some seals in different places. I mean, the hope is that we're gonna stop that reservoir from leaking from below the intake pipe. Man, I'm really butchering these words, but I think you'll kind of get what I'm saying. We're gonna stop the leaks.